that how are you able to recognize those certain truths which you believe the audience would be able to resonate with?
One thing is you have to learn to sort of trust your own impulses, excuse me, so that, when you read something, it may trigger something in you, and and that's a truth. It may not be a universal truth, but what you hope as an artist is that if you can render that truth, if you can deliver something that has the right truth to it, that the audience will recognize that. They'll recognize something in their own life when they see that on stage, that will resonate for them in a way. So the bad part of that is if you choose cliches, right? Because everybody recognizes cliches. Those are not useful. They push an audience member away, I think.
Yeah.
But if you can find a surprising truth in something, that it may just be a little detail that an audience member will look at and go, oh yeah, I know that. I get that. I've seen that. That's an interesting observation. That draws them in. That draws them into the process. And it can be, that can be true in a realistic set, or it can also be true in something that's much more metaphorical. But and so the fidelity to those truths is it's really important in design, and it's part of why drawing things accurately and well is super important. It's not that everything has to be realistic, but it's that you have to be deliberate about what things you are showing and not showing, so that if you are choosing to put a period lamppost on a set, that you're very deliberate about rendering those details in a way that when the audience sees it, that it actually takes them to that period, rather than saying, oh, that's a kind of crappy rendition of that period, because then they don't enter into it. But if you can render it in a way that's authentic enough, even if it's just that one detail, you can pull the audience there.
Sure. And even, talking about detailing, I really like that old farmhouse set design which you did. I was watching it and it was so interesting and so unique to watch that I can clearly see that how much work and how you put in creating it. And I even read that while you're reading a script or watching a movie side by side, you're also doodling ideas which you believe would create a great representation. Yeah, I mean, you have created such amazing sets with such detailing. Is there any, those moments when you get, oh, I found that truth in a particular script while reading it? It's this particular experience which, gets into your mind, maybe in early stages also, where you found that truth and you executed it, and audience was like, wow, it was really great.
Yeah. I did a play last year called A Soldier's Play, which was, in some ways a kind of abstract set. It takes place in a lot of different places, takes place, in different offices, but it's all basically on an army base. And it's 1943, so it's a World War II army base in the United States. And so I needed a space that was simple enough and flexible enough that it could become, there's probably 30 different locations within the army base that you go to during the course of the play. So you can't be that specific about where in the army base you are, but it had to feel like you were in the army base somehow. And so, just find, and it was very simple. Like when you looked at the research, these buildings are very, very plain. But the thing that struck me about them when I was looking at it was that, World War II was not planned for a long time. United States entered that war hastily. And suddenly, we were training millions of troops. And almost overnight. And so these buildings, this housing for these troops had to be built really fast. And so, and that was the thing I started to notice when I looked at the research, that was that it was just, there was something about, it was neat, but it was built quickly. And so that was the thing that, I tried to convey in the set. Did anybody in the audience consciously understand that? I really doubt it, nor do they need to. But I think that, to me, when I looked at it, I sort of felt like, yeah, I think I got that. I think I conveyed that, and that's part of what it made it feel like that era was that, there was a sort of can-do attitude, like the United States had to just jump into this war, and they built a lot of stuff very quickly, and so there's nothing sentimental about it. It was utterly functional. It was.
That's
so
right.
I don't know if that's a good example, but that's that was sort of what I was after with that, and I think I kind of achieved that.
Yeah, true. It's great that how you found out about those buildings, and you just remind me that take it in any field, actors, artists, they all have this in common, that how much they are able to trust their own instincts and discover it. Like one of my favorite actors, Heath Ledger, the Joker, and he was talking about one of his roles he played, and he said that he even used to look at the paintings of the person whom he is portraying, and he could see the emotions in that person's eyes, and that could give him a hint of how to approach those lines. And that's why he is one of the greatest Oscar winning supporting actor in the history. And it's really great to put the emphasis on it. Or any new painting you are working on?
Let's see. Well, I'm working on one. Let's see if you can see it. Right.
Yeah, I can see
right
it
here over my shoulder. Yes, it's not quite finished yet, but I'm working on that.
Are you sure it's a live painting, or is it a printout?
No, it's a painting. It's oil.
It seems
so painting.
It looks so perfect.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but thank you.